Yo, what's good everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be breaking down some of my favorite tournament or GPP plays for this Week 14 NFL DraftKings main slate. And like I always do, I'm going to break down a couple of my favorite game stacks as well as some of my favorite individual plays and stacks. With that being said, let's dive right into my spreadsheet here. And we're going to kick things off here like we always do in the top left-hand corner with those highest implied game totals. I talked about this in my cash plays video yesterday. Make sure you go check that out. But another week here that is not projecting to be a very high scoring slate. We got a few games here that have some shootout potential, but for the most part, it should be pretty low scoring. And as always, I got the highest implied team totals listed there as well. And you can use that as a reference point as I'm going through some of my favorite tournament plays here. With that being said, let's dive into a couple of game stacks that I like here for this week, starting with that game between the Vikings and Lions. And yes, this is projecting to be the most popular game to target on this main slate. So to try and get unique with my lineup, I'm going to do a full-on game stack here. Now, I like stacking up Jared Goff with Amon-Ra St. Brown and DJ Chark, and then running it back with TJ Hawkinson and Dalvin Cook. But I absolutely think we could approach this from the Vikings side too. Stack up Cousins with Jefferson and Thielen and run it back with a DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams, or even someone like Jameson Williams, who is expected to get more involved in that Lions offense this week. I think all of those guys can be mixed in because neither one of these defenses have been very good, especially as of late. This Lions defense is allowing 27 points per game this season, the most in the NFL, and the Vikings are allowing 23.3 points per game. You combine those two together, that's 50 points right there. We got an implied total of 51.5. Definitely some shootout potential in this game. Like I said, it is going to be a popular one to target, but one way I think we can get unique is doing a full-on game stack here. And then another game I like targeting here this week is that game between the Panthers and Seahawks. Now, I don't think we need to run a 5-player game stack here to get unique or contrarian with our lineup like we do with that stack that I just talked about, but I certainly don't mind it either. I kind of like Geno Smith here with his top 2 wide receivers in DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, and then running it back with DJ Moore and Deontay Foreman. Now, Geno has shown that he's very capable of getting enough volume to his top wide receivers in the same game. I mean, just go look at last week. Lockett had 30-plus DraftKings points. DK had 29 himself. He can get both of those guys enough targets in this game to where they can meet 4 or 5x value, and then running it back there with Foreman and Moore is relatively cheap. I mean, they're not the bare minimum price by any mean, but $5,500 and $5,400. Again, two guys who are certainly capable of hitting 4 or 5x value at those prices. I talked about this in my cash plays video yesterday. Foreman now has 100-plus rushing yards in 4 of his last 6 games, and the Seattle Seahawks defense hasn't been great against the run this year, ranking 24th overall in rush DVOA. DJ Moore seems to just play better with Sam Darnold under center, and we'll see that again here this week. So again, I don't think we need to do a full-on game stack here, but I certainly don't mind it either. Now, folks, before we dive into some of my favorite individual plays and stacks here, if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. We got just 2 months of the NFL season left, but I will have content coming out for you guys to close out the year. All right, now diving into some of these individual plays and stacks here, we're going to kick it off with the quarterbacks, and I like Joe Burrow here this week. Burrow's playing some really good football right now. He's got that extra level of confidence that he's playing with, a little swagger in his game, and when Burrow's playing like that, it's really hard to ignore. No matter the matchup, but it is a good matchup here this week against the Cleveland Browns, who ranked 27th overall in defensive DVOA this year. The Browns have also given up the 6th highest deep completion rate and 5th most deep passing yards this season. That fits perfect for the stack I'm going for here with Burrow and Jamar Chase, who I'll talk about once we get to the wide receivers. I really probably don't need to say much. We know the chemistry between those two. We know that the deep threat Jamar Chase is. And like I said, Joe Burrow is just playing some really good football right now, so I want to ride that out. He's actually been a top 2 scoring quarterback here now in 4 of his last 7 games. Now, moving over here to the running backs, and the first guy I got is Joe Mixon of the Bengals as well, but I am a little indifferent about stacking him up with Joe Burrow this week. If you want to do that in a large field tournament, yeah, I certainly think that's viable. Smaller field tournaments, I don't know if I'm going to go that route. He's certainly capable of getting involved in the passing game, but considering how well Perine played while Mixon is out, I think he's going to continue to get a role, especially in that passing game. But look, the matchup here for Mixon is very good against this Browns defense. Even if he is just involved in the running game, this Browns defense ranks 31st overall in rush DVOA and have given up the third most PPR points per game to running backs this year, around 22.5 per game. I then got Tony Pollard there of the Dallas Cowboys, and I kind of highlighted the Cowboys running back situation in my cash plays video yesterday, where I actually talked about Ezekiel Elliott, but I really like Tony Pollard here as well, especially on the tournament side of things, and honestly, I think we could maybe even play Pollard and Zeke in the same tournament lineup. That's probably more of a large field tournament strategy again, but they have such a great matchup here against this Houston Texans defense. No other team has given up more PPR points per game to running backs this year, almost 25 PPR points per game. It's not crazy to think that both of those guys find the end zone and maybe even multiple times, and the Dallas Cowboys right now do have an implied total of almost 31 points. And then I got James Cook there of the Buffalo Bills, and I'm kind of considering this a boom-bust play, and maybe that's not even the right terminology because he really hasn't even shown that high of a ceiling this year. However, he did show some really nice upside last week where he got 20 opportunities, 14 rushing attempts, and 6 targets. Now, I don't know if we can bank on that here this week. That's why it is purely a tournament play. But at $4,600, if he gets 15 to 20 touches again, I certainly don't mind that. You know, this is a guy that they did draft in the second round this last year, so they want to get him involved a little bit more with each and every game. And albeit a little tougher matchup here against the Jets, again, $4,600, we need what? 18 DraftKings points in order for him to meet 4x value? I don't think that's impossible. And then I got a few wide receivers for you here as well. Being that I highlighted 5 in the game stacks, I did limit it to 3 here on the individual side of things. Plus, I talked about a handful in my cash plays video yesterday, and I'm always sprinkling those guys in my tournament lineups. Jamar Chase, I probably don't need to say much here. We know the upside he has. We know the ceiling he has, really in any given matchup. And I do like the matchup here against the Cleveland Browns. And what I will say is last week, Jamar played on 92% of Burrow's dropbacks, so he's essentially back to a wide receiver 1. And he saw 8 targets in that game too, so yeah, Jamar Chase is back to say the least. Now, I'm pretty sure I mentioned this last week, but I'm going to reiterate it once again. I don't know if I've talked about another wide receiver more in the tournament side of things than Christian Kirk this year, but hey, I love the matchup again for him this week against the Tennessee Titans, who've given up almost 28 PPR points per game to wide receivers this year, the most in the NFL, and Christian Kirk remains the number 1 wide receiver, number 1 pass catcher, seeing heavy volume in this Jags offense. He's seen around a 25% target share this season and 28% of the team's air yards. I then got Michael Gallup there of the Dallas Cowboys, and honestly was a little surprised at how cheap he was. I don't expect him to be in the $6K range by any means, but $5,200? I think that's probably the right price for him, so I'll take advantage of this discount here. Again, a great matchup here against the Houston Texans, a great implied team total here at 31 points for the Dallas Cowboys, and Michael Gallup is a guy who scored 2 touchdowns last week, so yeah, at $4,600, if you have multiple touchdown upside, that's definitely going to be on my radar. It is not crazy to think that Michael Gallup goes for 18 plus DraftKings points in this game, again, around 4x value. Now, I'm sure everybody's already heard the Mark Andrews, Tyler Huntley numbers from last year, but if you haven't, I am going to let you know about those right now. In Huntley's 5 starts last year, Andrews had a 28% target share, which is around 11.5 targets per game, a 43% end zone share, and almost 39% of the team's air yards. Needless to say, the chemistry between those two did look very good. Now, it's a brand new year here, I totally get that, but Huntley's probably going to be looking for his number 1 pass catcher as much as possible once again, and that is definitely Mark Andrews. And then I got George Kittle there, and this is largely due to the price at $4,300. I don't know if I've ever seen George Kittle priced this low, but I will take advantage of it even if rookie quarterback Brock Purdy is going to be starting this week. Yes, Kittle only saw 7% target share last week. I am well aware of that. But again, $4,300 for one of the best tight ends in the NFL. Yes, I will take advantage of that. Plus, this Buccaneers defense hasn't been stellar at stopping tight ends this season, allowing the 5th most PPR points per game to them. And then a few defenses here as well. We got the Cowboys going up against the Houston Texans. If you look at DVOA stats here this year, this is legit the best defense going up against the worst offense. So I don't need to say anything more than that. 49ers have been the second best defense in the NFL this year, playing against a mediocre Bucs offense. Plus, the Buccaneers have to travel all the way across the country to play in this game. I don't know what the actual stats are for that, but it just seems like when you have to travel across country, teams tend to play a little bit worse. So yeah, I don't mind the 49ers at all at $3,200. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're playing at home, something I always like. We got TJ Watt back, Minka back, and we're playing against Tyler Huntley here, who has made mistakes in the past. So at $2,800, I certainly don't mind that either. And as always, going to wrap up this spreadsheet here with a low-priced option or low 4K wide receiver play. This week we are going with Julio Jones of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Yes, I just talked about that 49ers defense, but I still think Julio here at $4,000 is capable of going for 4 or 5x value. Now, he's clearly established himself as the wide receiver number 3 in this offense, but still ran a route on 69% of Brady's dropbacks last week. And while this 49ers defense is obviously very good, they have been a little susceptible to giving up fantasy points to wide receivers this year, around 22.5 per game, which is the 10th most across the NFL. So again, at $4,000 here, we need about 16 to 20 DraftKings points in order for him to meet 4 or 5x value. I certainly think that Julio's got enough left in the tank to where he could make that happen. I mean, is it crazy to think he has 6 catches, 60 receiving yards, and a touchdown in this game? That's 18 DraftKings points right there. All right, everyone, that is going to wrap up this video here for today. As always, thank y'all for taking the time out of your day to watch the content here on this channel. If you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. Let's have ourselves a great weekend here, folks. Let's win some money on this Week 14 main slate. In the meantime, I'm out of here.